PDP used to be the dominant opposition party. The PDP was lethargic in their opposition. They weren't as concrete in their demand as even APC was when they were outside of power. Apart from releasing occasional press statements, you didn't see them side with Nigerians, especially young Nigerians. And when P2B made the decision to leave, which was a healthy decision, by the way, to leave the PDP, you saw that a lot of young people gravitated towards him. And in that instance, P2B, Labour Party, and the Obidient Movement became, in one instance, the leading opposition platform in Nigeria. Whether you want to acknowledge it or not, P2B, Obidient Movement, and the Labour Party are the dominant force in Nigeria as we speak. And they have an enormous power that they have refused to use. And I'll give you instances. During the mindless pursuit of the Naira swap policy of Emefiele and the CBN leading up to the general election, there were heartbreaking stories online. But there is this particular woman that died at Amako General Hospital in Oka. What was the problem? She urgently needed blood transfusion. I think they didn't have the kind of blood in the facility, so they have to go to an external facility to buy blood. But there was no cash to pay for the blood that she needed. And the transfers were not going. And this woman died because she couldn't get blood transfusion. And it's not that she didn't have money. She had money, but she didn't have access. Even the people around her couldn't transfer. If you recall, transfers were difficult to process. Cash was nowhere. People were queuing up and fighting at ATM stands. And we started writing about this policy. We started talking about it. We started saying, look, this policy cannot stay. People are dying. Guess what the opposition, Labour Party, P2B, and the Obidient Movement did? They supported the policy because they thought it would benefit them. If you recall, I wrote at that point, I said Buhari has left his legacy. Anybody thinking that the Naira policy is for legacy is mistaken. And people had the opportunity to oppose that particular policy. People did not do that. You did not see your 1 million man march against the policy. And so that brings me to the advocacy appetite of the opposition. Because I studied the opposition, which you know that I'm also a part of, technically. So I've engaged at the highest leadership, and I will not drop names, but I've engaged at the highest leadership of both the movement, the party, and I've seen that the advocacy appetite is different. And what I've sensed is that there is this advocacy appetite at large scale or whole scale unbundling of the government, which is, I don't like the person who is the president, let's change the president. And we know that that's an option. But there's also a second option, which is piecemeal attempts at changing things. This man is the president. He has the capacity to wreck the country, and he has the capacity to do good. As an opposition party, if this man had wanted to do 100 bad things, how can we limit him to doing just 50? If he wanted to do 2 good things, how can we force him to do 10? This man is the president. And while he is the president, he has the capacity to damage the country, and he has the capacity to do good. As an opposition party, do we say, oh, we're not going to engage, let him do everything he wants to do, our own is to try to remove him? Okay, what if you don't succeed in removing him? And so that brings me to the goal. What is really the goal of the opposition? Are you interested in the office of the presidency, or are you interested in what you can do through that office? If you're interested in what you can do through that office, even while you are not in that office, using your platform, you can still restrain or impact the activities of the person in that office. For instance, while Tinubu has been the president, you've seen issues with subsidy removal. There were no organized protests. You didn't see the Obidient Movement organizing. You didn't see the Labour Movement organizing. You didn't see P2B organizing or mobilizing people. That's at one level. But when there was subsidy removal in 2012, you saw the current incumbent, they were then opposition, you saw them mobilizing and organizing in Ojota, occupying Nigeria. You remember? So today, the people who are supposed to occupy Nigeria have left Nigeria unoccupied. And so when you point accusing finger at the people at the supply side of governance, also apportion some blame at the people at the demand side of governance, that we have not been able to make our demands concrete. Before the elections, you saw 1 million man marches, you saw all of the activities going on in the state. Today, Nigerians are dying. No 1 million march. Let's go again to another issue. I've laid out 2 issues. I've talked about the issues of the Naira redesign policy. I've also talked about the issue of subsidy removal. You didn't hear these 3 entities: the presidential candidate, the Labour Party as a platform, and the Obidient Movement organizing to stop that. Let's take another issue, for instance, the issue of the incessant killings in the Middle Belt. The Labour Party has a platform, Obidient Movement has a platform to organize 1 million man marches in solidarity with our brothers and sisters in the Middle Belt, who are, by the way, almost all of them are obedient. And they are being killed. You see it in the news daily. If we do 1 million march trying to draw the attention of the government to the incessant killings in the Middle Belt, believe me, the government will be shaking up. So if you don't have people who are the man side of governance organizing and mobilizing in concrete ways to bring attention to issues, then things like this could fall through the cracks. So that's that. Opposition political parties and opposition platforms have an incredible opportunity to influence the government even while they are outside of government.